perfect. That was perfect. Oh my gosh, good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. For those of you whom I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Sangeetha Kumar. My pronouns are she, hers, and I have been a part of the Abbey for many, many years. So that morning, when the Right Reverend Deborah challenged our congregation to think of songs that give us courage, pump us up, and inspire us, I was helping with communion that morning, and I inadvertently blurted out, "Eye of the Tiger." Hence my tiger outfit. I'm not sure why I said that song exactly. It just popped in my head. I'm actually a huge Queen fan, and "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions" are like my go-to pump songs. Fun fact, allegedly, we had a close family friend who grew up with Freddie Mercury in India before he moved to England. I told my mom I was speaking. She was like, "Don't tell people that. We don't know that for sure." And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then weeks later, Reverend Deborah asked me to speak on this song. And I do whatever Reverend Deborah asks of me, so I did. So I guess here's my why. Also, fun fact, my name actually means music. So this whole series has been really meaningful to me, and I believe that music is divine. And so it's just been really lovely to see how music impacts people. It was 1982. I was in elementary school, and a third sequel was being released of the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone's heyday. An American band, Survivor, created the theme song for this movie known as "Eye of the Tiger." Fast forward a decade. My brother and I were getting ready for the high school Friday night games, whether playing in the marching band, running the spirit flag, cheering on my football boyfriend, or just hanging with our pals. We religiously listened to this song before leaving the house, pumped up and ready to cheer on our Clinton, Iowa River Kings and Queens. Let me digress for a moment. If you have ever seen this video, it is rife with 80s fashion and hair, and it's hilarious. It's hard to see it as a serious fighter theme when there are leather pants and mullets involved. It's true, I was dying when I was watching it. However, let's look instead at the lyrics and why I'm talking about this award-winning song today. I have known many of you for years, and I've shared my experience of being a queer Christian for a long time. Well, that seems boring now. There's a lot of us. Happy Pride. So I have now embarked on a new journey. I am a warrior on the road of breast cancer. When I think about what gives me courage, it's a song that gives people a fighting spirit. It's ironic that the group's name is Survivor because that's how I feel daily. So let's look at these lyrics, and forgive me because I'm going to read them all to you. Rising up, back on the street, did my time, took my chances. Went the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast. You trade your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night. And he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger. Face to face, out in the heat. Hanging tough, staying hungry. They stack the odds, still we take to the street. For the kill with the skill to survive. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger. Rising up, straight to the top. Had the guts, got the glory. Went the distance, now I'm not gonna stop. Just a man and his will to survive. I always want to sing this part. Eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger. This song felt like my journey, to keep going, to persevere, to survive. Just a woman and a will to survive. The thrill of the fight against my cancer rival. When I was going through radiation, I named my machine Oppenheimer. My geek science brain and my humor loved every moment of learning about what my body was going through and what I was experiencing. I embraced each step of this because I had no control over anything except how I would embrace my journey. And I remember thinking, I get to choose how I go through this, and I choose gratitude. The verses I resonated most during this time, and still do, were 2 Corinthians chapter 4. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Throughout my life in this journey, I've learned that God works through mystery. We do not always see what is going on or what is to come. Jesus often left people with more questions than answers. Faith is believing in that which can't be seen, but what we know is true in our souls. And I've learned that life is one giant trust fall. I had no idea that my life would change a year ago. And I think we're all survivors in some way. And I believe in those survival moments, God shows up in unexpected and very real ways. As you know, it's been a windy, wild Midwest summer and spring here. And I love the wind. My allergies don't, but I love the wind. It always reminds me of the Holy Spirit and how she is moving through the world like a spiritual tiger. No one can see through the eye of the tiger, but the tiger is always searching, always protecting, always aware, giving us strength to rise up to the challenge of our rival. May we have the courage to be courageous always. Amen.
My name is Jeff Klinger. I serve on the Great Plains Annual Conference staff. I'm a United Methodist clergy person and was invited to be here today, and I'll share a few reflections. Pastor Deborah said no more than 7 minutes, so I was tempted to run a clock on myself, but then I was told that there's one speaker that won't be speaking, and so I might buy a little bit of their time. But and then I'll have the privilege of assisting Sarah with communion as we celebrate today. But man, how intimidating to follow you and your story. I mean, you know these folks, and they know you, and they love you, and I'm just like the stranger who's up here now. So really, really humbled and privileged to be here. I'm also, Sarah named this as we started, when the senior pastor takes a sabbatical, it's a gift when folks show, right? Like I was a senior pastor at Topeka First a few years back, and it's really intimidating to think like I'm stepping away from this thing that I love, and I hope that people continue to stay connected. And my sense is that you all are connected here because you love Pastor Deborah, and you love all of the staff, and because you love one another, and you love the community. And so grateful to share just a couple of words of reflection. I'm curious, can I ask a follow-up question on what you're sharing? You and your brother rocking out to Eye of the Tiger. What was the medium on which you were playing Eye of the Tiger? Cassette, LP, 8-track? Cassette. All right. Does everybody know? I think we all know what a cassette is when I look around the room. I was watching as folks were coming in this morning, and I was thinking, okay, like I'm solidly Gen X, and I was hoping I'd have some colleagues with me, and I see some Gen Xers in the room, so I'm grateful for that. I grew up in that era where, like, we did not have a computer, and then we did have a computer, and then we didn't have internet, but then we did have internet. Like, I remember both of those transitions in my home growing up. I'm a Kansas kid, grew up between Lawrence and Kansas City, firstborn, type A, people pleaser, driven, and so I really valued getting things done, achieve, accomplish, accumulate, and somewhere along the way I inherited this tape. I don't know that anybody ever said this out loud, but I'm aware that it formed me. I inherited this tape that plays in my mind still that says, you can rest when everything is done. Does anybody else have a version of that tape that plays in their head, right? You can rest when everything's done. At the end of the day, you'll sit down and you'll relax, you'll read something, you'll watch something after all the dishes are done and everything's tidied up and put away, right? Am I alone in this? Okay, a few heads are nodding yes, thank you. And so what I want to share for a reflection this morning in terms of a fight song is kind of the opposite of Eye of the Tiger. Because the going and the doing and the striving and the fighting is something that I've experienced in my life to just leave me exhausted. And part of that, I think, is the world in which we live right now. Like, I remember very vividly when I was in seminary, I had little scraps of paper everywhere. You know, like somebody would say something like, hey, would you remember to do this? Or, hey, would you do that? Or, and so I'd like make little notes to myself all over the place. And I thought, I've got to get more organized than this. So I used on eBay one of those early Palm Pilots. And I'm like, now I can have my to-do list organized and digital and with me always. Does anybody else have a digital to-do list today that is with them always? It's a gift and it's a curse, right? And so we're connected and we're wired, and 24/7 we can be doing something. You can leave your job with one computer and one to-do list, and you can get in the car where you've got your phone that has another digital to-do list, and you can be thinking all the time about what you're trying to achieve and accomplish and accumulate. And for some, our value and our worth gets wrapped up in what we achieve and accomplish and accumulate. And so I picked Psalm 46, particularly verse 10, to share for my reflection. The song we're going to have sung when we receive communion this morning, and it's an incredible, just slow, reflective. I love the Will Reagan and United Pursuit version that you can find on Spotify, but I love Kyle's version too. I heard him playing it earlier this morning. So some of the words, Not in a Hurry by Will Reagan. I want you to just hear these, thinking about Psalm 46:10 that was read just a moment ago by Sarah, right? I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence, when it comes to your voice. I'm learning to listen just to rest in your nearness. I'm starting to notice that you are speaking. Now, these words, of course, directed towards the divine. And I will confess that in the going, the doing, the achieving, the accomplishing, the accumulating, the thinking that I can control everything around me all the time, I don't leave a lot of space for God. And so this idea of slowing down and not being in a hurry and listening for what God might have for us becomes, I think, countercultural and one of the great invitations of being a 21st century Christian. Psalm 46:10, that 10th verse, after all of that list of things that are happening, right? Though the mountains will crumble and the seas will rage and the storms will surge, though all of those crazy things might happen in our lives, we're invited to be still and to know that God is God. Ruth Haley Barton is an author that I've come to appreciate a great deal over the years. She talks about silence and solitude and Sabbath and retreat as spiritual practices that we're all invited into. And she's helped me to think about that word even that we translate as be still a little bit differently. I don't know Hebrew, but I just trust Ruth when she says this, right? That word rapha that we often translate as be still, another way to understand that is to let go of our grip. Stop trying to control things. Stop trying to be in charge. Be still and know that God is God. And I'll tell you, it's still a challenge, right? Like, I'm a guy that works all the time and has a wife and 2 kids and all of those things that happen. But we're trying to live into rhythms that involve silence and solitude and stillness. Our family has been practicing Sabbath for a few years, trying to explore what does that look like to come to a point in the week and to stop. Not because we're done with everything, but to stop so that we can intentionally connect with God and with one another. And so when we hear the song in a few minutes, I want to invite that to be like a refrain and a prayer for you as we receive Holy Communion today. To let those words be your words and to think about what it means to not be in a hurry, to be opening yourself to God's presence, to be listening for what God might have for you in the midst of whatever it is that you're dealing with or that you carry into this space today. My hope, my prayer would be that there is in this song and in this time of worship today an invitation for you to slow down, to trust that your value and your worth come from the fact that you are God's beloved, not from anything that you've achieved, accomplished, or accumulated. That you would rest, not because you're worn out, exhausted, fried, and can't go on, but that you'd rest because you're created in the image of a God who rests and invites you to rest. And that you'd find in those rhythms of rest and renewal and silence and stillness and solitude a God who is speaking to you and calling to you, and then, tying it back to our sister here, given the courage to fight the fight, whatever that fight is that you're carrying this morning. Again, I'm grateful and humbled for the opportunity to be with you all today. Let's continue our worship and song.